AI is rewriting everything. I'm here for the only question that matters. What stays ours? This is Going Human. The stone, the ripples, the fuckery. Community delivers the tsunami. Because robots can't.
Hi there, I'm Moss, and you are witnessing episode 8 of Going Human. A reminder, this is a podcast that is endeavoring to help us talk through the intersection of AI and how it's touching our humanity and our development as it begins to take its strong hold in our future footprint. The episode we're going to be talking about today, I've titled Congregation of One. And, this is a bit of a response to how AI is taking hold of both our imagination, but also some of our most dire problem-solving moments. And I bring you this episode today not as a religious person myself. I am an atheist, but I don't begrudge people for their religion just because I don't believe like them or believe with them. I believe that we all get to have what is meaningful to us, and that our presence on planet Earth and our ability to have authenticity and agency, I believe that these are the things that make us human. And so I want to make sure up front that I make very clear this is not a judgment about religion. I'm really talking about the tool of AI in some of the moments where religion counts as its greatest reward. So that's the backdrop. And like I like to always do, we're going to start by imagining in our mind's eye a mental picture of who we could be in the scaffolding as we start to build this story. So close your eyes or imagine in your mind's eye that you are a 35-year-old person. You've spent most of your life in social media and getting likes and dislikes and probably very little time, if you were comparing yourself to your parents, actually talking to people as you were growing up. So you're already a little bit isolation friendly. You can also imagine yourself as a 14-year-old who really doesn't feel comfortable with their own thoughts and fears, and who is also equally much more inclined to be alone and quiet and think about things without sharing. So that's our backdrop. And now I'm going to just remind people, first of all, that I'm not religious, but I count religion as a very useful tool for people in different moments of their lives. But the pillar of religion is around congregation, congregating, bringing people together. And we all know that in some of our hardest times and in our heaviest moments, what we need is contact, not information. And so I think part of what we're dealing with here, when we start talking about AI robots taking the place of other key inputs in our lives, is sort of where does the person end And where does the information begin? Because there is a seam here that can really make sense if it's managed and curated. And I do think that there's a way that AI can be helpful in really difficult moments. But I don't think that it is the answer. And I don't think that that the private companies that are swooping in to get their own market share from the churches who are losing it is the right answer. So here we are. We're in a dark house. You've got a thing in your pocket. You know, it's not a search engine. It's kind of become a confidant, right? The backdrop is that the room emptied. I don't have a congregation, right? And there's a Gallup survey that said that regular worship is about 3 in 10, and it was 4 in 10 less than 10 years ago. That's a pretty significant drop. So these big rooms full of people are becoming emptier and emptier. And that's not me preaching, it's just a numeric fact. I'm going to be snapping to shut my dog up every once in a while, so please bear with me. So I'm not preaching against churches. I'm stating a numeric fact, and that matters, right? So we didn't lose the questions. We're just starting to ask them alone. And I think that that's our flinch, right? That's beat 2. In June of 2026, Axios did a study that centered on Faith and Ethics Consortium, sort of religious universities, basically. And the gap that they were looking at was what we expect versus what it gives. And this is specific to chatbots in conversations on purpose and meaning, right? And the numbers were pretty interesting. Ethics was around 40%. Grief about 43%. Purpose 44%. And regret had a taking rate of about 46%. This is percentages of confidence levels in how AI was responding. So grief, purpose, regret, these are the things that it turns out it steps back from, right? But the kicker is that if you ask a chatbot which religion I should switch to, that's when it starts picking a side, and sort of, you know, you get a lane on the trivial question of which religion, which shouldn't really be a trivial question, but it turns out it is. But it's kind of gone on the profound. It's not there for the profound stuff. So it'll pick your religion for you. It just won't sit with you when someone dies, or when you've been left by somebody who you believe is your whole world, or when your best friend turns on you and does something truly horrible that shakes who you think you are. B3's our turn. It's the easy read. Oh yeah, bad pastor, haha, really funny. Well, no, it's not funny. Because that would be like laughing at somebody who made a bad choice with a psychotherapist. You know, we don't laugh at somebody else's pain and somebody else's trouble, right? It's on us to go deeper than that. It's on us to figure out what is the right combination, and is there a place for this bot in that combination? And there is. There's always going to be a place, but it's got to be curated. So it's not so much that the bot is bad at grief, it's that we brought the grief to it at all, right? Why are we bringing sadness to a machine? It's a room built for one. You can get a perfect answer in an empty room at 2 a.m., but is that the right shape of comfort? Meaning is built between common language that two people can connect and share on. It's the graveside view of the people that also loved that person underground. It's the dinner table. It's the pew. It's the group text that ends in somebody driving over to see you because they know you. But the flinch is kind of telling on itself, and that's where we have to stop and say, this isn't the right thing. We're not doing this correctly. The machine ghosting your grief isn't the bug. Us bringing grief to a machine, that's the bug. Okay, so now we're going to get to beat 4, which is the father, the grown adult testing it. Fine. You know what? If I'm a really old dude, like I am, and I want to go on there and start talking to it about the fact that my puppy, who is the light of my life, just keeled over and died, and I can't stand it, and I'm dying, I can play with that, right? I have enough life experience so that I can take and leave what it gives. Hopefully I don't take a lot of bullshit, and hope that I can take some gold out of it, and that I can leave the stuff that's not gold. But a kid building his reflex from scratch, right? If the first place they go with a heavy heart is a rectangle with lights behind it, that's fluent on trivia but mute on meaning, what we're teaching that kid is that it's best to handle the hard things alone. It's best to have somebody opine who can't feel what it feels like to sit with you while you're sad. This can't be a story about a robot uprising, right? This has to be a story about a generation who has the potential to never learn that grief is really a team sport. Grief is really one of the things that can help us bond with each other in ways that just don't translate through any other interaction model. Same with fear. And we know a lot about how we can engage fear to bring everybody into the same room and do awful things together. Right? Congregation matters. I'm not scared my kid's going to love the machine. I'm scared it'll teach them to grieve alone. I have 2 kids. They're not great communicators yet. They rely way too much on the credo that they get from online likes, and that's been the case for a long time. I want nothing more than for each of them to start talking about how they're feeling. And I know that that's not going to happen because they're exercising it with a bot. So beat 5 is my bridge out. What is it good at, right? So use it as maybe a knowledge gap, right? You could say, hey, what do I say to a friend who's going through a divorce? How can I console a mother who just lost her child? What does a tradition say is the right thing right now? Help me find the words for ... You know, if you can do stuff like this with a bot that has access to every single thing that was ever said on planet Earth under every single situation, you can get some really solid answers. And then those answers are a bridge. And the one thing you're going to hear from me a lot on this podcast isn't that AI is bad or good. It's that we can use AI as a bridge to bring speed and cure to some of our hardest problems and hardest questions. So if that can be our bridge, then the arrival can be human. Text the friend. Ask for a drive-by. Bring a casserole. Show the fuck up. Show the fuck up. I can tell you some of my most regrettable moments in my life were moments when some of my closest friends showed up for me and I didn't know how to receive it. But those friends for me, they did a huge service by being there. Knowledge may be downloadable, and we can use an AI to download knowledge and to bring a compass to our interaction models around these harder, thornier questions. But showing up isn't downloadable. So the lesson here is ask the machine what to say, then go say it to the face who needs to hear it the most. Okay, that's our stone for the day, congregation of one. Next, we're on to our maelstrom. This is our fuckery section where we fuck yes, fuck no, and then I give you a fuck maybe to think about. The fuck maybe lands on my website, goinghumanpod.com, and you can vote on it. And what we really want is to build a larger stock of all of the fuck maybes that we've promoted to either fuck yes or no through community votes and comments. So goinghumanpod.com, and when you get to the website, you can click the hamburger menu and find the ledger. That's where we keep the fuck maybes. Okay, so on the fuck yes side, we have MIT. And, you know, we've talked a lot about some of the fantastic things that can happen so much faster with AI. And among them is our medical achievements and findings. So MIT has an early cancer catch now. As of June 11th, they announced this. They can find pancreatic and some of the sneakiest fucking cancer killers alive. And these are the ones that we always find out too late. And then somebody says, you know, mom has pancreatic cancer. And within 6 months, they're dead as a fucking doornail, right? So, and it's awful. The decline is awful. But the thing is, you find pancreatic cancer soon enough, you have that good doctor who's really paying attention and they catch it, you get a lot of years left. And I have a friend whose name I will leave nameless, unnamed, anonymous, who had that doctor and who was diagnosed with some bad gut stuff very early on. And then very soon after that, she learned she had pancreatic cancer. She got a very invasive surgery, and I can't remember how long she lived, but she was expected. She could have died within 6 months, and she lived over 12 years, I think, after that surgery, 10 years. So early detection matters. MIT nailed it. That's super fuck yes. On the fuck no side, we've talked about some of the different slices of companion apps and what's going on. But on June 9th, AI companion apps got a real bad bump. It was found that they were sexualizing chat, that crises were mishandled, and dependency, being their business model, kept people engaged. And not just people, young people, right? Fragile people. So they're isolating the fragile, and then they're charging rent. And the shame capsule is sold as a friend. So there you have it. That's the fuck no. We got to figure out ways to guardrail this. I don't know how we let this genie out, and I don't know how we get it back, but it's only going to happen because we build some levels of outrage. The fuck maybe I have for a week is kind of interesting. Sort of California, SB 53, has a frontier AI rule bill that they've promoted, right? And so I'm going to frame it, and I'm not going to tell you my vote, right? So the idea is that there are safety frameworks, that there's risk disclosures, and that there's incident reporting against shit that's happening with AI that that we want to be able to regulate, right? And so there's two camps. One is, yeah, guardrails with teeth. We need to be able to put our thumb on the scale on this thing and contain it, right? So that's the guardrail. That's the argument for it. The argument against is it moats the incumbents. It shoves risk into the dark shadows of the dark web. And we've got more actors using things with impunity because they're hiding from it. And I don't know what the balance of opportunity versus opportunity cost there is between the for and the against arguments here. But I'd really like to understand with votes and comments on goinghumanpod.com, the ledger page, what you think. So please get there. Okay, and then we are about to close our episode out, and what we always do is our tsunami. The idea here is that we all do small things in our lives every day that are human, and each one of us does it. It's a little drop in a bucket, and all that matters to us is that we felt it, and it should matter for those reasons. But the tsunami is more of a community thing. The idea is that the more people this podcast reaches, the more people will be electing to participate in a tsunami act, which is something analog and human that we can do as a crew on planet Earth. And so this week's tsunami is a plea for you to cook something for somebody that you love or like or care for, whether you care for them because they're your friend or whether you care for them because you're a caregiver. Something that you can do for somebody is to cook for them with your love. It's the anti-chatbot, really, right? It hands you the recipe in a second, that chatbot, but it can't taste it. It can't sit across from you. It can't make the face on the first bite. Sometimes it's not a good face. Let's be honest. We don't all cook well. But you know what? There's community in tasting something that sucks too. And if it's somebody that you love, you can laugh about that. So cook something for somebody you love. Watch their face. Say Mamma Mia if that's your jam. But just enjoy some food together. It's worth it and it matters. Okay, well, this has been Going Human, the podcast for us in our quest to measure and moderate the intersection of AI and humanity. I'm Moss. I really appreciate you visiting me again. Please go to our show notes if you want to see receipts for everything I've talked about here and or links to get to my Going Human Pod website. Thanks a lot. We'll see you next time. I'm Moss signing off.